Hi, this is Joe Serta, President of NAIFA-Indiana. Welcome to our Veterans Day edition of NAIFA-Indiana this month, your video newsletter. We have a lot of great information and some super guests this month. Let's get started with a special conversation with one of our distinguished members, Dean Sangilis. In addition to having an incredible career in the financial services business, including being a life member of the $1 Million Roundtable, service as president of NAIFA-Indiana, and being named Hoosier Life Underwriter of the Year, which is now known as the Jack Peckinpah Award, Dean had a distinguished career in the United States Marines and Marine Corps Reserve that spanned World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Cold War, ultimately rising to the rank of Major General.
Hi, this is Chris Barthouse of NAIFA-Indiana, speaking to you from the Community Veterans Memorial in Munster, Indiana. It's one of the most impressive and comprehensive displays of its type in the country. Its 6.5 acres holds 7 bronze monuments honoring the sacrifices of the men and women of our armed forces during the major conflicts of the 20th century. I'm joined today by one of our NAIFA-Indiana legends, Dean Sanglis. Welcome, Dean. Thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
You know, this monument is arranged so that the visitor can literally walk through the history of the 20th century. Didn't you live through most of the timeline here? Well, why don't we just take a walk, take a little trip through your life?
Let's do that.
Now, 1929 we're coming up on. You're less than 2 years old when the stock market crashes.
Yes.
So I would imagine your early memories of childhood are during the Great Depression.
Yes, they are. My dad lost everything. Well, he had some confectionaries, and he came over from Europe as a young man. Didn't even have an 8th grade education. Was very successful. Then the stock market crashed. He lost his stores, lost his business, lost money in the bank. So there were times rather difficult at that time.
So how was life for you then?
Well, everybody was poor, but no one knew it. We're on the same boat.
Now, a lot of people that will be watching this, their most difficult time they remember is the Great Recession a few years ago. How does the Great Recession compare to the Great Depression?
In my lifetime, nothing has compared as bad as the Great Depression.
I would believe it.
In those days, I don't believe they had any unemployment insurance for the worker. There weren't the benefits you have now for the unemployed. There weren't as many welfare programs out, so you relied on your neighbor relatives to assist you in case you were in dire straits.
1941, Pearl Harbor's attacked. What were your thoughts when you first heard about Pearl Harbor being attacked?
I was surprised in a sense, and yet I wasn't surprised because from reading the different books, you realize the Japanese were preparing for that war for over 20 years. And then I think it would be a protracted war, and we would be involved sooner or later in that. I had 2 first cousins in the Marine Corps. One was a pilot, one was an infantry. They were stateside, but then one was on Iwo Jima. He received a battlefield commission to 2nd lieutenant. He was a gunnery sergeant. The other one was a pilot and flew in the Pacific.
1946. What happens in 1946 for you?
I joined the Marine Corps.
Where do you go for basic training?
I went to boot training in Parris Island, South Carolina. It was
a very popular place.
Very popular. It was 12 weeks of good training. Well, I was in pretty good physical shape because I wrestled in high school. The mental was something else, but you have to cope with it. Anyway, I survived it.
Now, where did you serve after you finished basic training?
I took a troop train to California and then went to China.
Okay.
I served in North China.
So you're a China Marine?
Yes, I am.
And what you're a member of the China Marine Organization, aren't you?
I'm the past president, yes.
Yes, there you are. Another leadership role for Dean.
1st Marine Division went to China to send the Japanese back home from North China.
Okay.
That was part of our job. When I got there, they were mostly gone at the time. And so we occupied North China. And then we changed the occupation to guest of North China.
Okay.
And then we left for Guam in I left in 47, May I believe, because we didn't want to become embroiled with the North Chinese, the communists and the nationals at that point, yeah.
But what were the conditions in China then?
Well, you're reading about China in a geography book and you're there and it was pitiful, a lot of misery. You never seen a country so poor. And the people just barely existed. The Korea War broke out in 1950, and the Marine Corps called everybody back on active duty. I even got called back, but I received a deferment to finish college as long as I agreed to go to OCS when I graduated, which I did. So in 1952, then when I graduated, I went to Marine Corps Officer Training, Quantico, Virginia.
And that was at Quantico.
Quantico,
While
yeah.
you were at Quantico, you met a fairly significant individual.
Yes, I met a young lady on Liberty, and it was a blind date, and we've been married now for 65 years.
Proving powers of forgiveness of wives. So that was great. So after OCS, what happens next?
I go to Camp Helen on duty, then I go with the 3rd Marine Division to Japan on duty, and then I go to Korea on duty.
And where were you in Korea?
I was in Munsini. It was about 80 miles north, I recall, of Seoul. We were manning what used to be the old battle line with trenches. We're tied into the British on one side, and the shooting was over at that time, but we were still patrolling.
And did you make any contact with Chinese troops or
We
North
could
Korean
see them,
troops?
they could see us, but it was pretty peaceful.
So everybody was still pretty much.
You're an alert, yeah. You're an
But
alert.
you were there in January. How was Korea in January?
Coldest place I've been in the world.
And your living conditions, I imagine, were fairly primitive.
They were. We just lived in a tent.
So how long were you in Korea?
I left Korea in August of that year.
And where did you go from there?
I went to Great Lakes, Illinois, Marine Barracks there, and I received my release from active duty in September of '54.
So now you're out of the Marine Corps the second time. What happens?
I got a job with Liberty Mutual in Chicago. I was a credit analysis for them. Reconnected with my bride, my wife-to-be, and then we got married. And she had a job in D.C. working for the Navy Department. So I moved to D.C. to be with her, with Liberty Mutual. But I didn't like working for a major corporation because you had to pay, you had to wait for someone to move up before you could move up. And when I got my wife pregnant, I decided to make a move back to Indiana to go into the life insurance business.
Now, how did you get involved with Northwestern Mutual?
Well, when I came back off active duty, I joined the Marine Corps Reserve. I walked into the training center. The executive officer was the man who taught me basics tactics at Quantico, Virginia, and he was with Northwestern Mutual. So he enticed me to come with Northwestern Mutual on a part-time basis, which I did in '55.
And so how long have you been in the insurance and investment business now?
This is my 65th year, including part-time. Next year will be 66 years in July.
So do you think you'll stick with it?
For a few more years, yeah.
Okay. And you've had quite a career in both the Marine Corps and in the business. How do you juggle that, having a Marine Corps Reserve career and a very successful business career, and also you were a volunteer high school wrestling official, correct?
Yes. My wife tells me we survived our marriage because I was always gone the first 30 years. And that's the truth. Well, you call it about time management. Time management, you know. I loved what I did and just found time for it.
How have you seen the financial services business that you're involved with change over time?
Oh, it's radically changed, radically changed. You have more products now, you have excellent training, and of course there's more supervision now in the old days. When I started, they taught you the book, go get them, you know, and you learn. I think study groups really got me going because I would learn from experts who've been around for a long time. That's great interchange of information, and that's how I learned.
Now, you've been fairly successful at this, haven't you?
Depends what you define as successful.
Well, I mean,
Always could have done better.
you're a 61-year qualifying member of the MDRT.
Well, that was always a goal. Be a qualifying member of the round table every year. That means you're doing something right along the way.
What do you attribute this success of yours?
Working your plan. Well, I was taught in the old days that you write the lives, the premium and the volume will take care of itself.
Okay.
So I wrote lives. Many times I had over 250 lives a year.
Wow.
You know, in those days it was a one appointment sale.
How did you get because you got to get a lot of referrals to get 250 lives. So how did you go about getting, because you were kind of native to this area, but you've been here.
I would ask for them.
So did you have a plan? You just go and say, give me your Rolodex, or?
No, they refer people to me, and then I would tell, okay, I'll get you a steak dinner. And of course,
Okay.
steak dinner for $2.50 in those days, so so I could afford it. So I could afford it, yeah.
Okay.
No, you develop nest, church, business communities, clubs, things like that.
What do you think your most successful tactic was?
Working for people to suit their needs.
Now, you've also been very much involved with NAIFA, haven't you?
Over the years, yes, I believe in giving back, and because I learned from NAIFA, so I've been very fortunate to go through the chairs years ago.
What has NAIFA meant to your career?
It meant quite a bit. It gave you guidance along the way, meeting the people that were very successful. You learn from them, rubbing elbows with the people who really made it to the top, and picking up their ideas.
What advice would you give to new advisors that are just starting their careers in this business?
Well, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be hard. It may be brutal, but you have to look at the end of the rainbow. If you work your plan and can take rejection, they're not rejecting you. They may reject your product, but not you personally. And you have to have a thick skin.
What aspect of your financial services career do you take the most pride in?
I have a lot of pride working with my clients, helping them out in situations. You develop a great relationship with them, and you become a counselor with them, not necessarily an agent or financial advisor. I get a lot of pride out of doing that.
You should have a lot of pride with NAIFA. You were so significant for the Northwest Indiana chapter of NAIFA, Indiana. They actually named an award after you, the Dean Sanglis Award. How did that come about?
I don't know. I was completely surprised. Apparently, I did a good snow job on it. If you're running a competition and or you see this man has a good product, I don't disturb the product. You have a good agent, so leave it the way it is. Even though the product may not be as good as yours or maybe not the right design. So you try to uphold the other agent. And that does travel around, on that basis there. You don't look for the sale, but you look to be fair to your client and service their needs. And over a period, because I've been around a long time, I guess it developed that way.
Now let's get back to your Marine Corps career. You had a very lengthy career, rose to Major General. What in that career is your best memory?
Being selected by your peers into a leadership position. When I was a young enlisted guy, general was God. In fact, when I was enlisted, I only saw one general my whole career. To achieve that rank to me was in my case, quite an accomplishment.
What did you learn along the way there to become a general? You must have learned an awful lot of lessons going from private
structure,
to general.
Discipline, set high standards, make the difficult move when you have to make it.
And did that translate into your business career as well?
Yes. Well, I'm a pretty well disciplined person, so I work my plan and I work hard. I used to work 6.5 days a week. I take care of my client, sometimes at the sacrifice of seeing the family for dinner, but
What would you have to say to the current leadership of NAIFA-Indiana?
Well, before the current leadership, I want to say that I'm very thankful that I belonged to NAIFA all these years. It's been very instrumental in my career, what they've done for us nationally in the past and what they're doing currently. And I particularly want to thank Joe Serta for his great leadership for the state of Indiana.
Dean, what an incredible contribution to our organization, our industry, and our country. Thank you and all of our veterans for their service. In addition to Veterans Day, November is also Long-Term Care Awareness Month. We are joined once again by Carol Golden of the Limited and Extended Care Planning Center. Carol, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Carol, can you tell us what LECP has planned for November?
Yes, thank you. I very much would like to share that the NAIFA Limited and Extended Care Planning Center is putting on the first of its annual events for the November Long-Term Care Month. Whether it's an agent who is selling life insurance, annuities, savings, college funding, retirement planning, or just dealing with small businesses, we hope that there will be something significant during the 3-day event. It's November 10th, which is a Tuesday, through November 12th. And each day we'll have sessions from noon Eastern Standard Time to 3 p.m. For example, we're going to kick off our event with a leadership session, and we'll have leadership from One America, Nationwide, and Lincoln Financial. We're going to have a session on hybrids, and we'll be having representatives from One America, Nationwide, Pac Life, and Securian Financial. I'm happy to say that we're going to have a session on technology, which will be moderated by our very own Ryan Penny. And then we're also going to have sessions, again, we take a very broad view because we all know that no matter what you're doing with a client, caregiving responsibilities or actual care needs can really impact all of the planning and all of the hopes and dreams that they have in place. So we'll be including reverse mortgages and how they can be a buffer for the retirement savings or for assets under management, as well as funding for long-term care. We're going to have a wonderful speaker who is going to take us through the vets benefits that are available. Of course, we'll do that on Wednesday since it's Vets Day. We're going to have 3 sessions on worksite. We'll have a carrier. We'll have 2 brokers who deal with small businesses and helping them help their employees get protection. We're going to have a very brief peek into the results of a survey that NAIFA participated in on who is selling what, to whom, and why. We're also going to have, throughout the month of November, small, fast videos so that you can just pop in and see some of the important information that NAIFA's LECP Center wants to share throughout November, Long-Term Care Month.
Thank you, Carol. In addition to what's going on at LECP on November 12th at 9 a.m., we're broadcasting your pre-recorded 1-hour CE on understanding the broadening options for extended and long-term care planning. And although it's pre-recorded, it's still great information and good for an hour of CE.
You know, and speaking of CE, NAIFA-Indiana has a pretty big long-term care awareness month live event scheduled, don't you?
That's right. November 19th, starting at 8:30 a.m., Chris Barnhouse is going to christen our new headquarters with his highly regarded 5-hour long-term care insurance renewal CE course. It's going to be a hybrid class. That is, it will be available both in person and online. But register early for the in-person class. Although we have a large new classroom, we will still be observing social distancing, so seating will be limited. And if you can't attend either online or in person, we have recorded the class and it is available at the NAIFA-Indiana headquarters. Just call ahead and schedule a time to watch it. As a teaser to this Renewal CE, Chris joins us with the first of our monthly sales tips.
Here's an idea I adapted from a talk by industry legend Van Mueller. Getting in to see older, wealthier prospects is hard. You know that. You need to convince them you have information they need, and they'll only get it from you. You call a prospect you've been referred to. He or she tells you they already have an advisor. Do they? Maybe. It doesn't matter. Your response should be, well, that doesn't surprise me, Mr. Prospect. I'd expect somebody in your position to have several advisors. I'd like to become a resource for you with no expectation you'll ever do business with me. But do you mind if I ask you a question? Have your advisors gone over your Social Security statement with you? Well, they usually have. Sometimes they haven't. Then ask the question they've never been asked. What have your advisors told you about the warnings on page 1 and page 4? Be prepared for a long silence. 99 times out of 100, their advisors have never mentioned page 1 or page 4. Now, you're being a little deceptive because page 1 used to include the dates when Social Security and Medicare are projected to run out of money. It got to looking so bad, the Social Security Administration quit putting it on the statement. You have to go to the Social Security Trust Fund website to get that information now. More on that later. The prospect will usually respond, "What warnings?" You respond, "Well, that's a longer conversation than I want to have over the phone, but I'd love to set a time to come shake your hand or bump your elbow and introduce myself and explain those warnings to you." The worst thing that will happen is I'll give you an idea you can discuss with your other advisors. And if you want to have a lot of personal attention, tell your advisor you had a conversation with another advisor. Would you object to that? What reasonable person would object to that? When you meet with your prospect, take 2 things. First, a copy of the Social Security Trust Fund Trustees Report so you can show them when Social Security and Medicare run out of money and start a discussion about retirement income planning that's not overly reliant on government programs. Also bring a copy of page 4 of a Social Security statement. The upper corner contains this paragraph. Now, it didn't scan very well, so I've written in what it says below. It tells them that Medicare is not going to pay for their long-term care, so they should look at private insurance. What a conversation starter. If you have any questions about the topics I've discussed today or any long-term care issues, feel free to contact me at any time. I'm always happy to answer any questions you may have. In the meantime, stay safe, and while you're wringing your hands over the pandemic, throw a little hand sanitizer and soap on them.
Thank you, Chris. In order to continue this feature, we're asking our members to share their top sales tips. We're going to have a contest in November and December. Email your best sales tips to Sandy Gray at the email on your screen. A panel of trustees will select the best tip. Sales tips will be shared monthly throughout the year. Membership is the lifeblood of NAIFA-Indiana. We are joined today by a new member, Rock Plank. Thank you for joining us, Rock.
Well, thanks for having me, Joe.
Rock, why don't you share with us a little about your business and your interest in NAIFA?
Well, sure, thank you. I am a 25-year veteran of the mortgage industry. I have a certified mortgage banking designation. I happen to work for Fairway Independent Mortgage Corp, and my role here is to spearhead our initiative into the Indiana market as it pertains to reverse mortgages. I'm really excited about working with NAIFA. As you may know, and as some of your members may know, in August, Fairway and NAIFA joined forces together, and we're an educational provider on this very topic of reverse mortgages.
Very interesting. How have you found your NAIFA membership so far?
I've been amazed at the support, especially locally, of the NAIFA members. I knew or have interacted with NAIFA members in the past, and that was one of the attractions for me to join the association. My past has always been focused on working with financial planners and mortgage clients and integrating a strategy into their overall financial plans. So I was already familiar with a lot of your members, and they always spoke very highly about their membership, the advocacy of the organization, and just the overall support. So once we joined forces, this was a no-brainer. And ever since then, whether it's Sandy or yourself or other members, the support has just been fantastic.
Thank you, Rock. New members really are important for the health of our organization, and Rock has proven to be an asset in more ways than one. Last week, we began preparing our new headquarters in Carmel, and Rock volunteered and came over, spent a couple of days with me there, painting, cleaning, and in general, doing hard manual labor. Thanks so much for that, Rock.
Well, Joe, I don't think you knew any better by letting me run wild with tape and paint. And I know I got in trouble a couple times for my enthusiasm to paint things, but I was happy to help. And again, already the support I've received from the organization, this is one simple way to return it. So I was excited to do it, and I'm excited about your future at the new location.
Well, thank you. In addition to the 2-hour CE we had October 8th, NAIFA National had its virtual Performance Plus Purpose annual meeting October 6th through 8th, and what a meeting it was. Many reported that except for not being able to fellowship with friends from around the country, it was the best meeting with the best speakers ever. Thanks to NAIFA National for successfully pivoting to a virtual meeting on short notice. One of the things I really missed was the main stage presentation when we honor the achievements of our members, but we're still going to do that. On November 17th at 7:20 p.m., NAIFA will be hosting the Belong event, a virtual main stage presentation that will include recognition of all NAIFA volunteers, past and present, as well as numerous awards, including recipients of the National Quality Award, 4 under 40 winners at the state and national level, LACP recipients, LUTCF recipients, and Lilly graduates. In addition, NAIFA will award its prestigious John Newton Russell Memorial Award. Make sure to attend so you can hear from outgoing President Cammie Scott one last time and attend the annual business meeting. I know I'll be there, and I hope you will too. Register by going to www.naifa.org and clicking on Events. Of course, your trustees are planning our own virtual annual meeting, December 9th, beginning at 9 a.m. with a CE sponsored by Ash Brokerage. That will be followed by a motivational speech by former Navy SEAL Phil Kuntz And at 11 a.m., we'll have our annual business meeting and election of officers. It will be in a town hall format, so be ready with your questions and comments as we chart our post-pandemic course in 2021. I look forward to seeing you all soon, in person or by Zoom, and feel welcome to drop by our new headquarters at 1776 East 116th Street in Carmel after we move in. Official opening day is October 31st. NAIFA Indiana is facing numerous challenges, but together we can take on anything.